All right, we're good to go whenever.
Next week we're on frickin' 90.
Right?
Nuts.
And still no traction. We're doing better, though.
They're doing much better. We need to get back on doing Game of Thrones.
I know. I was wanting to start that up again this weekend, but my father-in-law is coming this weekend. I thought it was next weekend. So, yeah.
Remind me to borrow the Blu-rays.
Okay.
I still have the DVD set where I can watch it, but I would prefer to watch them on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Because I'm, first world problems. Was it all good?
Yep. Yeah, we're ready whenever.
All right. I'm going to try to keep it like last time. News, 25-ish minutes. Get done under an hour.
Okay.
Last week's was like perfect. That's what we want. Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of There Will Be Expletives. This is episode 89. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And we are going to start off with what feels like the 5 millionth update on the goddamn Batman movie that's probably ain't ever going to goddamn happen.
At this point, I don't know, man. I never thought I would see a Batman movie have such trouble.
All right, I'm gonna report in the news on it, and then let's dive into this because this is interesting to me. Okay, Matt Reeves, director of Cloverfield, Let Me In, War for the Planet of the Apes, also the previous Planet of the Apes movie that I think was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
I like the guy's CV.
I like the guy's track record too. I like most of the movies. Basically, every movie I've seen of his, I've liked. But it's kind of like one of these things where Warner Brothers feels like they can't win for losing.
Yeah.
Because, okay, he's reportedly signed on to direct the movie, which has been pushed back to 2019 to accommodate for a new script, because that's fucking good news.
Again.
This is per Collider. Warner Brothers has been searching for directors, and now, according to Variety, they've landed on War for the Planet of the Apes filmer Matt Reeves. Variety also reports that he was always high on the list, but The Hollywood Reporter adds that the studio is also looking at Ridley Scott. That ain't never gonna fucking happen.
No.
Marvel couldn't get Ridley Scott. That was a pipe dream.
Yeah.
But it's fun to think of. Like, really quickly, how amazing would it be to watch a Ridley Scott Batman movie?
It would be pretty awesome.
It would be like, we can just call it an existence after that and just all go home and we're just done. But here's the name that I would have gone with. This is like you could have made you could have made like a big deal out of it to me. Fede Alvarez, the director of Don't Breathe, was in the running. I would have gone with him, which is weird to say because I really like all the movies I've seen of this Matt Reeves guy. But again, it almost feels like the safe choice. I don't dislike it, but dude, like after watching what that guy did in that movie, Don't Breathe is so fucking intense. His camera work from the shadows is so good.
I know.
Picture perfect. Like, you could have made Batman appear like a demon in the dark, just like Stephen Lang.
Which is the whole idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, first of all, like we talked about, I don't know if this movie's gonna fucking happen. I don't have a good feeling about it at all.
I don't have a good feeling about it. I can't imagine a Batman movie not happening in some form or other.
Well, they're sure as hell going out of their way to make it difficult, it looks like.
If they don't want to take their time to build up to Justice League type stuff the way Marvel did, I think what they should do is just couples. Like, put Batman and Cyborg together or something, and then, just keep coupling up or tripling up heroes in a movie and not doing full blown stuff.
See, I don't know, because for for 90% of Batman v Superman, it's just those two.
Yeah.
And Superman's already been established. He's had an entire solo movie at that point, and you don't have to establish Batman, and they don't because his origin is accomplished in the title sequence, basically.
Yeah.
That movie felt like 5 hours long for 90% of it, like I said, until you get Wonder Woman like really late in the movie. It is just those two, and they still fucked it up. I don't know. At this stage, I have been really patient with them about this series of films. And especially being the person that has to go through Collider every week and just sees article after fucking article of Batman's being pushed back, Batman's being rewritten, Flash is on its 15th different director.
Batman,
is all...
until they are sure it's going to recoup some of their money, Batman is not going to happen. But it is going to eventually happen because they need Batman to happen. Batman is the one that's surefire going to sell out.
That's the thing. Batman's going to happen. I don't know if this Batman's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's almost like, okay, here's the thing. I think Wonder Woman is actually going to be a pretty solid movie, but Wonder Woman can't financially make the money they want off of it to spearhead and basically be the make or break point. It's going to be Justice League. This whole fucking thing hinges on Justice League. If Justice League comes out and is like you and I both are on record, we both like Suicide Squad better than BVS.
Yeah.
But if this Justice League movie comes out and it's on par, critical response and fan response, like Suicide Squad, like very mixed, I think that's the last we'll see. That I think it'll all be done.
I think it's going to come out more like Batman versus Superman. Like it's. I don't have a good feeling about Justice League at all.
I feel a lot better about it after seeing some of the footage, but I liked what I saw initially at BVS. Zack Snyder's Comic-Con trailer for BVS made it look great, and it was not. So the trailers are lying. I don't know what to think. I think Wonder Woman's going to be solid, but I don't think it...
One of the issues I have with Justice League is the trailers feel nothing. They feel like nothing but the marketing department to me. Like, you know that sweet-ass Justice League logo? As cool as that is, because, it's a throwback, it doesn't fit the tone of their movies to me. Like, it's like someone in marketing said, hey, you know what'll really get their attention? If we use one of their old logos. It's just decisions like that all throughout the trailer. If I were to watch the trailer again, I could pick it all out to you. And it just feels like a cluster because Marvel got comic book guys to do comic book movies. DC brought in Geoff Johns, but we don't really know. I mean, he's supposed to be their Feige, but it doesn't really feel like he's their Feige.
When
it feels
Marvel,
like he's their on the phone consultant they call up every once in a while.
The difference between Geoff Johns should have always been their Feige, but he went in as a band-aid, not as a spearhead of the because Kevin Feige was there day one when they originally made the decision to go with Favreau and Robert Downey. Kevin Feige has been there since day one.
Yeah.
Geoff Johns, they were asking him to do a fucking miracle saving these movies because
it's
the only movies that I feel good about at all are Wonder Woman and Aquaman, which are the two least profitable ones for them out of all of them. That is not a good sign.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a jump ahead to our next story. Ant-Man 2 is slated for 2018. The MCU will have 2 solo Ant-Man movies out by the time a year in advance of DC potentially having 1 Batman film out. That is unacceptable. That is mind-numbing. That is fucking astounding to me.
DC is too late to the game, is what it is. We're like 14 or 15 movies into the MCU. They should never have let that happen past movie 3. Like, it's because I've said all along, even here on the podcast, like, where the fuck is DC? As we keep going along.
It's really depressing to me because I am more of a DC guy overall than I am a Marvel guy. I like the universe of DC better than I like the universe of Marvel, but it's like when I'm more excited for Ant-Man than Batman, it's just something's wrong. What makes me sad too is the Batman was looking pretty damn cool because it was looking like we were going to get Deathstroke. We even saw footage of him. But if they're pushing back the script till 2019, or pushing the movie back till 2019 to accommodate a new script, we don't even know if he's still the bad guy.
Nah, I doubt he will be.
God forbid they think Leto is going to save the day by putting the Joker in it. If they switch it at the 11th hour, we're getting rid of Manganiello as Deathstroke and giving you more Leto Joker. That movie can suck my balls because I am done.
You'll see it.
Oh, I'll see it, but I'll be angry about it, goddammit. I'll be on this podcast complaining about it. Yeah, it's a clusterfuck. I'm honestly, too, I'm just sick of talking about it. Like, I'm sick of talking about a Batman movie. How has that even occurred? It's just really frustrating. My patience, I've been very patient with them, but they take so long to do anything, and they can't nail down any creative choices. They don't deserve my patience anymore. I'm kind of done with them.
Not only that, the DC's animated movies have been falling flat lately.
That's true until Justice League Dark, which I haven't watched yet, but is apparently really damn good. They were on a slew of very meh to bad. The Killing Joke. I fucking hated their adaptation of The Killing Joke. It actually made me angry.
I didn't hate it, but there was times I just kind of stared at my screen blankly, trying to figure out why did you go this route with what you did.
The entire first third of the movie with the Batgirl stuff was fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You cannot defend that. I'm not saying you're defending. I'm saying, like, from their writing standpoint,
right.
You cannot defend that as the movie should have just been 45 fucking minutes long. It should have been partnered up with another shorter comic adaptation, which they've done with.
In the past. Yeah, they had the Green Arrow Spectre one.
Yeah. It was just, but yeah, I could do an entire review on how much I hated their Killing Joke movie. But apparently, Justice League Dark, 80 more minutes of Matt Ryan as Constantine. That's at least 7.5 out of 10. They get the Geoff seal of approval. I haven't even fucking watched it yet, but I will be watching it soon. Let's talk about Ant-Man 2 though.
Since we started the topic,
we actually have some good news. Ant-Man 2, unlike Batman, which is a sentence I just fucking said, is happening. Michael Douglas, who was Hank Pym in the first movie. Yeah, this was a pretty funny story. He confirmed via his Facebook account that he will indeed be reprising his role for Peyton Reed's follow-up, saying it's time to start growing the goatee, and revealed that filming is scheduled to begin this July.
Nice. Ant-Man and the Wasp, is that still the tentative
Ant-Man
title?
and the Wasp. Yeah, they even have the logo out for it, I think. And It's very 80s retro like their other ones for this phase, and I fucking love it so much.
But you see, that fits the tone of their movies. The crazy ass random Justice League logo, I guarantee you, does not fit anywhere near the tone of their movies. That's why when everyone's like, "Oh, that's a sweet ass logo," I'm like, "Yeah, if it was more like the Marvel movies, it would be."
Well, I just think it's funny that we're talking about their tone when they don't even have a tone yet.
Anyways,
but Ant-Man, the first one, is in my top 5. I'm pretty sure. I'm thinking back. I'm pretty sure it's in my top 5 of all their movies. I fucking love the first Ant-Man a lot. So
it was a fantastic. Ant-Man was better than it deserves to be being Ant-Man.
It was so fucking good. It was so fucking good.
So
and
good.
They have all the cast coming back. They got Pena coming back, my boy. Like, Michael Pena in the first Ant-Man is one of my absolute...
I want more Michael Pena voiceover.
Yes, I could not freaking wait. July 6th, 2018 is when we were supposed to be getting it.
If it was me, I would release a special trailer that is footage not in the movie, promoting the movie that's just Michael Pena voiceover and nothing else.
Just a Michael Pena voiceover trailer, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. I would do at least one trailer that way.
That would be fucking amazing. I'm so excited for Ant-Man 2. I can't believe we live in a world where there was an Ant-Man 1, and then we're getting an Ant-Man 2, and it's probably going to be pretty damn good. Because
it's going to be better than the Batman movie.
Everyone is back for it, and and that's one of those ones too. It's like usually when I rewatch the MCU movies, I start to find flaws in them, like just very nitpicky stuff. Every time I watch Ant-Man, I love it more and more, and it rises on the list of all of my rankings for them.
Yeah,
so impressive. Marvel has also this week revealed a trailer, or not really a trailer, more of just like a little behind the scenes video announcing Infinity War.
It's a viral marketing ploy, is what it is.
Yeah. The majority of it is Kevin Feige speaking. They do show a scene. It's all on YouTube if you are curious about watching it. The coolest part of it is probably where they show Chris Pratt, Robert Downey Jr., and Tom Holland all together. How crazy is it if you're Tom Holland? He's in Civil War for 10 minutes, maybe 15 to 20.
And remember, Civil War is his first MCU movie.
He's all anyone has ever seen him in is that so far, because Spidey movie hasn't come out yet, and he's up there with Robert Downey and Chris Pratt as one of the main marketing ploys of Avengers 3. It's just insane.
It's insane.
And he even talks about it basically just like, I can't believe I'm here, and he's almost like geeking out that he's a part of it, which is a really good sign because God, he was such a perfect choice.
He was apparently a very perfect choice.
The thing that made me laugh was Kevin Feige was actually like talking, like announcing that Guardians of the Galaxy was going to be in Infinity War was this big reveal. We've been talking about that for 3 years, ever since Guardians. Thanos is in the fucking movie.
Yeah, like a lot. He's in that movie a lot more than the others. The others is just like in credit scenes.
Yeah,
he's actually a plot point.
It's like today's forecast partly cloudy with 100% chance of no fucking shit, Kevin Feige. It's like, of course. But yeah, it's still exciting. I'm excited. I don't know how the fuck you go about writing that movie. It's the guys who did Civil War and Winter Soldier, so it's in good hands, but personally, I wouldn't know where to fucking begin.
An interview that Kevin Smith said he read or heard or something said that basically all the Marvel characters you've seen up to this point on screen are in this movie.
I think the cast list of just, maybe not even counting villains, it ran up into like the 40s. I wouldn't even know where to begin writing fucking Winter Soldier, which had like 7.
Can you imagine if they recreate the Joss Whedon shot of panning through the city at all the different combat going on between the heroes? If they did that with this one,
man, like they did such a fucking brilliant like in Civil War, they did such a brilliant job of giving everyone their due. Like that movie still felt like a Cap movie. It felt like an Iron Man movie. It felt like an Avengers movie.
Because of how long the cast list is, I do worry a little bit about Infinity War. The reason I don't worry about it as much as I probably should is Civil War. The way they balanced out all the characters in Civil War.
It was a masterpiece. The way
it was a masterpiece. So that any flaw you find in it and you talk about, you can just kind of go fuck yourself because you're not getting any better than what you got balancing that many now A-list characters. A lot of them I would not have called A-list, but a lot of them now are, and the way they balanced them was insane.
That movie operates, like I said, a Cap sequel, an Iron Man sequel, an Avengers sequel, and an introduction of Spider-Man, and no one ever feels overshadowed. It was all done fucking brilliantly. Every time I watch that movie, I am just mesmerized at how good it is because like Warner Brothers can't figure out their tone for a single movie. That movie, like every emotional response you can think of, you have with that movie. I mean, you think about Agent Carter's funeral, and an hour and a half later, you're enjoying your ass off watching the airport sequence. Like, an Avenger gets paralyzed.
Yeah.
After that, it's like the roller coaster ride that never feels janky.
It was for a Marvel movie. It was pretty dark at times.
They hit everything I loved about Winter Soldier and all of the lighthearted moments I loved about the first Avengers movie, just fucking flawlessly, in my opinion. So it is in great hands. I just feel for them because I wouldn't know where to fucking begin. I think what does help them.
I would not want that movie.
Me either. What does help them, I think, though, is that this was originally thought of as part 1, part 2. So they don't have to have a full arc in this movie. This can basically kind of be their Empire Strikes Back, where it ends on more of a cliffhanger, and then we have the fallout. So I've got
a feeling it's going to end bad for the Avengers.
Someone's going to die.
I think it's Cap, to be honest. That's my prediction.
I think it's gonna be one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Iron Man.
I don't know. They already kind of pulled that a little bit in the first one. They kind of teased that a little bit. And it seems like it'd be an obvious choice.
True, but by the time these movies come out, that would have been, 5-6 years ago. So we've been, I don't know. We'll have to see. It's kind of cool that we don't know. It's kind of it can be a shitstorm.
I can tell you one thing that's not going to happen with it, and that same thing I was listening to with Kevin Smith. He said he was hoping to see some of the Defenders in it. Ain't never gonna happen.
They don't have time.
Not only even that, if they don't give a shit. Even if they don't have a shit to give about it.
Even if they wanted to include the TV show characters, they wouldn't have time. They have enough problems to worry about already.
Yeah.
Another little video that you should watch, courtesy of Marvel this week, is they continued the adventures of Thor and his roommate Daryl with Team Thor, and it's a pretty fucking funny video. Chris Hemsworth is so fucking good as that character that it blows my mind, like how likable he is in that role. He says like, "The brain's a muscle. These are all muscles. I'm smarter than you."
I'm covered in brains.
It's great. So yeah, YouTube Team Thor. And I think if you missed the first one, it's basically just Thor shooting the shit in between the Avengers films and his movies with his roommate Daryl, and it's fantastic. I think you can actually watch like the first and second parts merged together now. I think it's been put together. So I recommend, if you have not seen that, checking that out. That's all we got for movies. We have one bit of TV news to get through real quick, and then we are on to our discussion of the week. TV, Stranger Things. It has been revealed that they will have a finite amount of seasons. They are not going to be running it until the wheels fall off. Cough, cough, Walking Dead. Cough, cough. Did you want to include the quote?
Yeah. Let's see. Who says this? Is Ross Duffer and Matt Duffer saying this?
They're the creators and showrunners.
Everything changes as we move forward, so we'll see, says Ross. Matt says, I want it to have a really finite ending. I don't want it to be one of those shows that runs out of gas, Walking Dead, and they lose it because they're losing interest. You want to end when you're on top. And I'm going to add, like Breaking Bad.
Exactly. That is the number one thing that pops into my brain when I read this, and God bless them, because this is the difference between the quality you get on a Netflix show compared to AMC's The Walking Dead. Because AMC's The Walking Dead purely exists to make them money. It is no longer a creative
They have basically
aspiration.
said that. They
make no qualms about it because they can get away with it. Because they don't give a shit. It's like... it is the ultimate license to print money right now outside of Game of Thrones. Like, it's insane how much revenue they make off of that goddamn show. But I think this is a really great sign, not just for Stranger Things, but just Netflix in general. That's why I wanted to include it. Stranger Things is also kind of a behemoth for them right now. It's probably the highest rated show as far as how many viewers it has right now.
I remember when the first season hit, it's like everything on the internet, every meme, every article, everything was Stranger Things. Like, there was no escaping Stranger Things.
It started out really strong, and then it just got bigger as word of mouth spread. Have you guys?
They had a Super Bowl ad, dude.
Yeah, that's how. In the course of less than a year, that's how big it got.
Hold on, a Netflix show had a Super Bowl ad.
And they didn't do House of Cards. They did Stranger Things. That's like, it's a great. Did you get to start it yet? It is a great show. I'm curious your thoughts on it. I think you'll end up liking it, but we'll have to talk about it later on. But yeah, I just thought that was really, really great sign. And good on you, Netflix. Good on you, showrunners, for instead of worrying about the financial aspects behind it, just make a good story. The chips will fall into place.
Yes, that's. Oh, and there's always the chance that you get your Better Call Saul of Stranger Things also. It doesn't technically have to end.
Dude, what's crazy about it, too, is when they originally announced Stranger Things Season 2, I was under the impression it was going to be an anthology-based show, like because the type of concept works that way, where each season could be its own, anthology, and it can like basically have the same tone, kind of like American Horror Story, have the same type of tone, but with a totally different cast, or even have the same cast back but doing different roles, like American Horror Story does. Yeah. But they're continuing the original story, so it is super easy for them to do a Stranger Things spinoff at some point. So good on them. I'm super happy about it. I'm really, really excited for season 2.
I wish more shows did this.
I 110% agree, and unfortunately, that is not the world we live in right now. All right, Ron, are you ready for our discussion of the week?
I believe so.
All right. We decided that this would be a good week to actually talk about the history and evolution of comic book adaptations, since 90% of our fucking news was comic book movie stuff, for good or for worse. I've written down some notes of kind of stuff that I would like to go over. Do you have anything that you would like to open us up with?
No, nothing in particular. I'm just gonna kind of spitball it like I usually do. I didn't have time to do my own notes.
Yeah, you're busy playing Dark Souls.
There was a little bit of Dark Souls. There was a lot of babies, and there was a lot of cleaning the house when my parents were here with the babies. So I didn't get to doing notes, unfortunately. But this is something you and I talk about off and on this podcast all the time. Yeah. So. But yeah, I'll let you start us out.
Okay, I can trace back what got comic book adaptations started to one specific movie, and that is Blade. Blade comes out in 1998. It is the first time a comic book adaptation is taken basically 100% seriously, and it was successful.
That's not a bad movie.
It's a damn good for the time. Like, that movie is almost 20 years old. For that movie to be as good as it was, think of like other 90s comic book movies around that time.
Right.
You're thinking like this is the time of Batman and Robin. This is when Joel Schumacher has almost 110% killed the genre.
Oh God.
This is like when without Blade, which leads into my next movie, X-Men in 2000. I don't think if you don't have Blade in 98, I don't think we get X-Men, and I don't think we get hardly anything we have right now.
I would agree. Blade was kind of shocking. Was it R?
I'm pretty sure it was rated R.
So we had a rated R comic book based movie then in the 90s, and it was taken very seriously, very graphically, and at least for the era, in my opinion, some damn good casting of Wesley Snipes. And the story I thought was pretty solid. That could be because I'm not the biggest Blade fan. I don't even know a whole lot about Blade, to be honest. But I mean, that movie kind of blew my mind when I went to go see it in theaters. And I'm even one of the few people that's of the opinion that the entire trilogy is pretty goddamn good, especially for what it is and in the era.
Yeah, I like the first two better than the third one, but I still thought the third one was decent. Like, it took a lot of flack, but for the third movie in a Blade trilogy, I thought it was still pretty good. Like,
they did a pretty good job too of mixing up the Blade series, where each one was kind of different. It wasn't the same thing rehashed every time. So they did a really good job with Blade, and I think that was kind of the key that unlocked the comic book movie door.
Because here's the thing, most people are going to point back to Batman 89.
Yes.
But while Batman 89 was the first one to be not taken as seriously as Blade, because like you said, Blade's fucking rated R. Like, Batman 89 is really serious, but you saw what happened afterwards. Like,
Batman 89, I think, was on the road until Schumacher came along. But Batman 89, I would say, got people's attention. You know, that a comic book movie could be that good.
Yeah, like Batman 89 got everyone's attention, and Blade in 98 got the ball rolling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Batman 89, in my opinion, is probably the most Batman aesthetic movie we've gotten. I think Batman Begins is the most Batman movie we've gotten, but I think aesthetically, what you think of as Batman is Batman 89.
Yeah.
So that got a lot of people's attention at that time.
Let's talk about X-Men though in 2000, which is crazy that movie came out 17 years ago. That's kind of mind-blowing to me, and I feel really fucking old. But X-Men is also really important because X-Men was the first movie to establish that, you know, this could be done with a team.
Yes.
Because up until this point, I think the only team movie that had been done was Roger Corman's Fantastic Four in the 90s, which was like a direct-to-DVD type of thing that is apparently like one of the biggest train wrecks ever that I kind of want to watch just to see how bad it is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and you just want to talk about, like, Blade had solid casting, X-Men, just Hugh Jackman alone.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, X-Men had really good casting. It was still kind of stuck in the genre, like the storyline in it was very like comic booky. I would almost say the storyline in it was almost kind of paramount to the X-Men cartoon storylines, but it was portrayed more adult also. And that was something that Blade and X-Men both really gave you that hadn't really been seen before. And like you said, it was a team-up movie. It's probably the first successful comic book hero team-up movie. And there's, for, you know, a lot of people's complaints about that movie, one, in the era, that was the Avengers of the era.
2000. That movie had no business being half as good as it was.
Yeah, and, you know, for all of its complaints, people complained a lot about Sabretooth, and, you know, and there's a lot of justified and unjustified complaints, in my opinion, about it. But for the era, that movie had no business being anywhere near as good as it was. Like you said, it was casted perfectly.
Outside of Halle Berry. But for that time, I understand why they did it, because that wasn't the era like we are in today. Right now, you can focus on just casting the best people. Back then, it was still more for a marketing ploy.
It was a marketing ploy. You needed to get asses in the seat, so you got the biggest names. I mean, we had Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, all of them. Now, the other thing I was going to say is one thing is I'm sure Wesley Snipes nailed Blade pretty good just from what I've seen of Blade. I don't know a lot about Blade. But you had Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman, and Ian McKellen knocking the three most important characters out of the park in that entire trilogy.
And you want to talk about like the script, I thought was really well put together too, because the basic, the third act is pretty hokey, you know, very comic booky, but when they're establishing the characters, they have so many characters to establish, and they do it pretty goddamn beautifully. Like the Auschwitz thing in World War II for Magneto is done beautifully.
Beautifully done, I guess you could say.
It's close. It's one of my top 5 favorite scenes they've ever done in any of the X-Men movies. Is the first time you're introduced to Wolverine and he punches the dude's hand and shatters every bone in his forearm. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, what I think of when they first introduced Wolverine, that kind of blew my mind, and I told you about this the other day when you were over at my house, the 2 outside claws pinning the guy to the wall by his neck, and the middle claw slowly. And the camera
angle where it's just following, you know, the blade coming out.
And it comes out and kind of pushes in on his skin, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen or heard of him controlling the claws independently. Like, so that always stood out to me.
It's so badass. I thought they did
the ingenuity of putting the wrist brace on Hugh Jackman every time his claws are supposed to be out, so he can't bend his fucking wrists.
Yeah, that's some crazy attention to detail that would end up being.
Yeah, even in X-Men Origins, when he's on the motorcycle, only his left claws are out because you can't throttle the motorcycle, and he can't bend his wrist with his claws out. Like, they paid that much attention to detail to Wolverine.
Which attention to detail ended up kind of being the figurehead for the MCU. It's like they are such sticklers for every little thing, and they have to be when they send characters off in so many different directions. But yeah, that's the first time they really started that up. But
is that the first time they were kind of meta about things? Like they make the reference to yellow spandex and stuff like that.
And ironically, which we will be talking about pretty soon, is Avengers. One of the script doctors for the first X-Men was Mr. Whedon, which a lot of people do not know. All of your meta humor, I can almost fucking guarantee you, came from Joss Whedon. Like, what'd you prefer, yellow spandex? That was fucking Joss Whedon. No one could tell me otherwise. And then one of the all-time best Wolverine scenes is when Mystique's running around, so they don't know who's who, and Cyclops is just like, wait, how am I supposed to know it's you? You're a dick.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. See, and you think of that, and in that same area of the movie, what I think of is when he goes to the metal detector, is they're all sneaking in, and it beeps, and they all turn and look at him. He looks at Scott, and two of the claws go out, and he just leaves the middle one out.
And again, I can almost guarantee you who wrote that scene. But that is like, that's a true testament. That movie came out 17 years ago, and we are still quoting it today. That's very impressive, very impressive. So I don't think X-Men gets quite the amount of respect that it actually deserves. But
there's a few movies that I'm sure we're going to cover that people, especially a lot of the younger generation right now, can't fully appreciate because they're in a post-Iron Man, post-Batman Begins, post-Avengers world. And, you know, when this was all we had, like the X-Men, was kind of mind-blowing. When you
I saw it when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I can assure you it was fucking mind-blowing to me.
I mean, my dad fucking loved that movie, you know, everything about it and everything. He never really had any interest in any comic properties outside of Batman. And not only did that kind of blow his mind, it's kind of one of those that he watched every time it was on.
My dad, his favorites have always been Batman and the X-Men, and he actually still says, I'm pretty sure to this day, at least the last time I talked to him about it, his favorite comic book movie he has ever seen, and he's seen not quite as many as like you or I have, but 90% of what you and I have, his favorite is still the first X-Men movie.
Well, it kind of proved what was possible, to be honest.
Yeah, that's
because a lot of what you see in the Avengers and Civil War and everything, there's a lot of that stuff in the first X-Men movie.
Yeah.
And honestly, kind of my complaint about the X-Men movies is that entire trilogy all kind of felt like the first movie. It felt like they were always standing still to me. I liked them. I watched them. I own, don't get me wrong, I own a box set that has all three movies in it. But
I still really love the second one. I really like the second one.
I don't know anything. I'll tell you this much: any scenes that involve Wolverine, Xavier, or Magneto, I am all the fuck over, dude.
Yeah, Magneto is always one of my favorite characters. So just there. But we should also give. We should give props to. We talked a lot about like the script and the casting and everything. Bryan Singer, who was the director, deserves a lot of credit for all that has happened in the last 20 plus years in comic book film. A lot of that is due to his brilliant direction of that film, because that I can only imagine, like, it's hard enough directing a comic book movie right now after it can be done. He didn't know it could be done, really. He was kind of, spitballing.
He was the visionary.
He was spitballing the whole goddamn thing, laying the groundwork for so many great movies that were to come.
Did you ever imagine that you would be watching a movie of the X-Men where Magneto kills a guy by pulling all the iron in his blood out of his body through his skin?
More of that attention to detail, like.
Did you ever imagine that that's what you would see in an X-Men movie if you were to sit down in theaters? I mean, I know that that's more script writing than anything, but that is not something I would have ever expected to see at the time.
Not at all. You actually mentioned the next two that we're going to talk about. Blade kind of laid the groundwork for these movies being taken seriously and more adult focused, like you said. X-Men kind of laid the groundwork for what can be a team movie, a more ensemble focused, and then like what so much is.
and more family based, I would think, also.
Yeah,
because
it was
the
PG-13.
perception at the time was that comic book stuff was kid stuff. No one over the age of like 15 would give a shit. And I think X-Men kind of made it fun for the whole family type
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, Blade was the adult-focused one, and X-Men proved that you could bring your family to a superhero movie, which is also important too, because if Hollywood didn't have superhero movies to make money off of right now, they would be fucked.
They would be very fucked.
The next
Still
ones,
kind of are.
the next ones proved that these movies could be something special, and they were Batman Begins and Iron Man. And they proved that these movies could be special on two polar opposite ends of the spectrum. Because let's talk about them chronologically first. Let's talk about Batman Begins. Batman Begins, you get Christopher Nolan, who is an art house film director, proves that you can make an Oscar caliber movie that just happens to star Batman, just happens to star a superhero.
Yes. Batman Begins, the first time I saw it, I was screening it as I was still working at an IMAX theater in a projection booth. And I screened it in IMAX. And I said that X-Men was kind of mind-blowing. My head shot off my fucking shoulders and went through the roof when I saw Batman Begins, dude. I said, it is the most Batman movie I think we've ever gotten so far. And
I would agree.
It to me, and you know, say what you will, it was one of the first times that the movie really thought of him as a detective.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a whole lot of it in the movie, but he was doing some detective shit in it. But it, for the tone of that movie, and for it to be filmed, was it the early? I mean, I guess Blade. I was gonna say, was it one of the first to really be filmed all in the dark the way it was? I don't think Blade had made as much use of shadows and stuff though as Batman Begins did.
Batman Begins definitely had a more artistic focus behind it.
Yeah. But it took the time to try to convince you, at least on some level, how a person could actually conceivably become Batman.
Yeah, it is a crime drama that just happens to star Batman as a lead character.
And it actually kind of shows him adapting technology and shit that already exists to his own needs. And it was actually, I don't know, to me, the what kind of blew my mind was how they tried to make his gadgetry and everything as realistic as possible.
Yeah.
I always kind of love that aspect of the movie.
Yeah. God, I just want to watch Batman Begins and Dark Knight back to back. Great.
It, like, Blade had Whistler, but I think it's also one of the first ones to show that a superhero can't really go it alone. I mean, he had Lucius Fox. He had, Alfred. He had.
Yeah, you want to talk about continuing the line of great casting? Holy shit! The people he was able to assemble for that film.
I know.
Bale, Oldman, Michael Caine, and Morgan fucking Freeman as your main four characters in a Batman movie.
Unlike Halle Berry as Storm, not only can they all put asses in the seats, they were all perfect casting.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that may actually be one of the first movies to show that you can perfectly cast a movie and get away with it also. Yeah, they were big names.
It's also the first one to show you can get Oscar winners to actually be in these movies. They have gotten to the point where you can ask Morgan Freeman to be in a comic book movie and he wouldn't laugh at your fucking face and hang up the phone, Yeah. Yeah. That let's talk about too is because on the opposite end of the spectrum that just showed like what was possible for a universe, and that's Iron Man. The first Iron Man, it cannot be stated. It cannot be fucking stated how much we owe everything in the MCU to Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau. Because the studio did not want Robert Downey anywhere near that movie. And he's the heart and soul of these fucking movies, is Robert Downey in that first movie. Like, you don't have, I don't think, what we have right now without that casting choice.
And it's interesting because Iron Man, first off, I just want to say I didn't give two shits about Iron Man until the Iron Man movie.
No one did.
But he's like, for the first half of the movie, he's not even Iron Man. and you don't give a shit. It
Such a good origin story too. I'm a
it's
sucker
such
for a good origin
it was
story.
done so well, and I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to put into words what I'm wanting to say. That movie, the tone of that movie is something unique. That movie was serious, yet it didn't take itself seriously.
We talked about it earlier about how Warner Brothers is still struggling so much to find themselves a tone. Like one of the most remarkable things about the MCU is Civil War, which was what like let's go back to Civil War and Doctor Strange, which were what like the 13th, 14th, 15th, something or somewhere around there, one of those numbers. They still basically have the same tone as Iron Man 1. Like
Yes.
that is masterfully done. The whole line of movies basically like they skew, every now and then for a specific scene, but every movie as a whole follows Iron Man 1's tone, which is remarkable.
Yeah, and like I said, it's crazy because all of those movies are serious in tone, but they don't take themselves seriously. And how
they don't take themselves too seriously.
And how the fuck you can accomplish that is beyond me. I don't even know. That first Iron Man movie, though, really, really proved that, one, a lot of people knew who Robert Downey Jr. was, and you had Jeff Bridges in there, but we're not talking, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman level. And it proved what you can do with the story writing more than anything.
It also proved too is one of the strongest foundations of the MCU is the fact that they had to get their universe up and running without their big guns. They didn't have Spider-Man, they didn't have X-Men because of the rights that they had sold away. Their biggest flagship characters, like for them to have established everything off of an Iron Man movie is kind of mind-numbing, because if you equate that to DC, that would be like the equivalent of DC getting a Juggernaut Justice League universe off the ground by using, I'm trying to think of who would be like a B-list type of character, even though they're in kind of like if they were able to build the foundation for everything in Justice League off of a Green Lantern movie, and they didn't start with a Batman or Superman, like it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Because like when you think about the Avengers, they're big now, but at this time, Iron Man, no one gave a shit.
Yep.
Captain America, no one really gave a shit. He'd been made into movies, but no one really gave a shit. Yeah. The Hulk, no one definitely really gave a shit at all because of the Ang Lee movie.
Yeah.
And Thor, when they told me Thor was even happening, I was like, how the hell are you going to do that? And they fucking did it. They went and did it.
And it was a fucking fantastic
It's a damn good movie. I really like the first Thor movie. Yeah, it's just mind-numbing. We could do an entire podcast just on the history and evolution of the MCU because there have so many fucking movies. But did you have anything else you wanted to add with specifically Begins and Iron Man?
No, not really. That's a whole nother podcast also, just those two movies.
All right. The next one proved to me kind of like the pinnacle, and that's the first Avengers movie.
To me, that is the absolute perfect superhero movie. Superhero team-up movie for damn sure.
Yeah. I would still say to this day that the best superhero movie I've ever seen, just the best movie that happened to star superheroes is The Dark Knight. Just because to me it's basically flawless, just film in its own right. The best superhero movie that feels like it's a superhero movie is the first Avengers movie.
Yeah. What you think of as a superhero movie that is absolutely flawless and perfect is the Avengers movie.
I'm getting real close with Civil War because I'm also so impressed with what they had to juggle and just what all they did right with Civil War. Civil War is fucking close. Like I keep going back and forth, but for the sake of the conversation, the Avengers was the beginning point of what could become of it.
For me, it's always going to be the Avengers because when I was sitting in that theater watching that movie, even like the second or third time I saw it, I still didn't even know what to think. I still couldn't even put it into words because not only did that movie, because my first thought for the Avengers was every one of these guys has had their own movie. They've been in the limelight the entire time.
At least one, because Iron Man had two.
Yes. And it's like, how the fuck you can balance that without any of them feeling like they're sitting on the sidelines. And as I thought it was going to be basically pretty much Iron Man most of the time.
I thought it was going to be 50% Iron Man, 50% everyone else. That was what I thought going into it.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way I felt about it. And the dude, Hulk, I feel like has as much screen time. Well, at least Bruce Banner has as much screen time as everybody else.
And they had to handle an actor change for one of the
with
Avengers characters. Like that was impressive too. Like
Yeah.
so many kudos to Whedon for the writing and directing and for Ruffalo. That's a hard spot to step into.
And the way they even, balanced Loki in there, because Loki had a lot of time in Thor and he has a lot of time in the Avengers, but none of the other MCU movies really spend a whole lot of time on the villain. Yeah. And the way that they managed to not only wedge Loki in there and it work, but they encounter Loki like 4 or 5 times before the major fight. I mean, and normally superhero movies, it's the third act that they finally meet up, Yeah. The Loki from beginning to end is all throughout the movie interwoven with the other characters.
And his script is so fucking sharp that we could almost recite that movie from memory right now if we wanted to. We could do a live performance of the Avengers, basically. It would be terrible, and even Bobby would turn it off, but we could do it if we wanted to. Yeah, I mean, the Avengers just kind of speaks for itself. The reason Civil War is so fucking close and I go back and forth is because Avengers encapsulates basically a perfect superhero movie, lighthearted tone for the most part. But, like, when you just think about, like, we had an Avengers movie for the most part where the Avengers fucking lost. And you don't disagree with the bad guy. Like, you see where, like, the tonality and how heavy Civil War is while also not feeling exhausting or depressing.
It's like the MCU's Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. The way that it still like hits every type of, like, it hits the fun moments, it hits the dark moments, just like the tightrope they walk back and forth is so impressive to me. But yeah, we could do an entire podcast just about Avengers v Civil War. And the bottom line, we all win because they both exist.
Pretty much. And the other thing also, we keep drawing the line at Civil War, but all the way up, the tone of those movies have managed to stay the same. They've also managed to get slightly darker as they go along and as their audience ages. And they all still fit in the same category and they're all still watchable by general audiences.
Yeah.
Even though they tend to slowly get darker.
Yeah. It's like they follow the same.
Civil War really felt like was the first time I really felt it get darker. And as I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, they all did get a little bit darker as they went along. Civil War was just kind of like, bam, it's darker. But the evolution of the MCU movies is pretty spectacularly handled.
Yeah, I would agree. And then like the way that they kind of like walk the tightrope is that the darker they get, like with Civil War and like Winter Soldier is a decently dark movie because of the concept behind Hydra and how ambitious they are and how many people they want to take out.
Yeah.
But it's like, here's like the wavelength of the MCU's tone, right? It's like the wavelength of it getting darker and lighter, starts waving further away from the center line, but it always finds its way back. It never loses itself, like the way BVS got lost in itself on trying to be so serious, and it made it exhausting in the meantime. I've got one more bit to talk about in the evolution. I originally intended to actually include comic book adaptations, movies, and television together, but since we've stuck it mostly to movies, I think what we're going to do is we're going to finish this conversation talking about the movies, and next week we're going to talk about television adaptations of these, because I think we could do an entire discussion off TV too, because I have some notes for that as well. The last movie note that I wanted to include. First of all, did you have anything else you want to add with Avengers other than it's fucking awesome and
No.
It speaks for itself?
No, I think we've spent enough time.
The last evolution, it's one that just happened and it's fresh, but it's already showing dividends. Deadpool's R rating is the most important evolution of this decade.
I agree.
because Deadpool showed that they can make money off of it being R-rated. And what did we get? People have only seen the first 45 minutes of Logan, and they already say it's the best goddamn X-Men movie. And I believe them because I have seen bits and pieces of Logan.
It's probably one of the best superhero movies, not just X-Men.
Goddamn, I want that movie so bad. We were only like 2.5 weeks away from Logan. Do you realize that, Ron?
I want that movie so bad. I don't even know the Old Man Logan storyline, and I fucking want that movie, and I want it now.
Yeah, that's the same thing too. I know it, and I know that they have to eschew away from the original story just because of the way it works. But it's just a basic concept. It's fucking genius, and for it to be the last movie for Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman, I'm so excited for it. But yeah, it's just because what had happened and why Ryan Reynolds and company had to fight so hard to get it to be R-rated is
no
because
one fought harder for that movie than Ryan Reynolds.
Absolutely, over the course of a decade, for the most part.
Yeah.
Major kudos and props to him for giving us Logan. Like, Ryan Reynolds is really the only reason we have Logan coming out in theaters in 3 weeks in the way that it sits right now with that R rating. But we've had R-rated superhero movies in the past, but they just weren't successful. Like, they were decently successful, but like the one that comes to mind for me was Watchmen. Like, Watchmen made a decent amount of money, but not what they needed off of it to maintain that type of rating.
Yeah, and I don't think that's Watchmen's only issue, though. I think there's also the fact that you got to know Watchmen. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like Batman or Superman.
It's a very difficult story to get across in 2.5 hours. I thought they did a pretty brilliant job of it myself.
I thought they did a really good job of it.
And
like you said, it's a difficult story to get across, but it's not also as widely known. It probably is among comic book people for sure, but it's not as widely known.
And anytime we have had R-rated comic book movies make money, they were the type of property that you wouldn't think was actually from a comic book, like 300. 300 is off of a comic.
Yep.
But, you know, if you told someone that, hey, that was based off a comic book, most people would actually be surprised because it doesn't feel like a comic book movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or like V for Vendetta. If you told people that V for Vendetta was off of a comic book, I think a lot of people would be like, you're full of shit. That's dark as hell.
Yeah.
And it's political because most people don't realize that comics existed, they've existed for 70 years, 80 years. And they have gone through so many different paradigm shifts of tonalities and like Watchmen and V for Vendetta are very politically based.
Not even just them. One of the very first covers, if not the first cover for Captain America, was him decking Hitler in the face.
Yeah.
As an American Aryan soldier, he's got the blonde hair and the blue eyes, and he's decking Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just Deadpool making as like. That marketing campaign, God bless them all. Good God, it was a stroke of fucking genius. Every little thing they did, and Deadpool
not only gave us the era of R-rated comic book movies, but it also proved that you don't have to have a $250 million budget.
A good point too. Very good point too.
I mean, Deadpool...
and again too, it showed that you can make so much good stuff happen from digging deeper into the toy box, like with Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like with Deadpool, the main characters in Deadpool are not Professor X and Magneto and Wolverine. They're fucking Deadpool, Colossus, and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. And the movie made like $500 bajillion. Like, fucking excellent job on all.
It's funny how every time I see you guys, it's just you. It's like the studio couldn't afford more than 3 mutants.
No, are we talking? Are we talking Stewart or are we talking McAvoy? Because their timelines are so fucking confusing. Deadpool's also just like the way they wove in the meta-ness was just brilliant too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna be a wrap for the movie side of this. We're gonna continue it next week for the television side. Probably ends up working out because Ron and I were actually running thin on topics, so this works out that we broke this into a 2-parter. So if you would like to check us out more, please like and subscribe. We not only do our weekly vodcast, we also have Let's Plays up on the channel, hoping to get some more coming your way. We have Facebook and Twitter links in the description below if you're curious about those. And most importantly, please share us out if you happen to enjoy our content and know anyone else that might also like our stuff. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And we will see you guys next week.